nice to have you here. Gonna mute you all, but you can still use the chat if you have any questions. Yeah. So for those who don't know me personally, I am Maya, and I'm a flow coach, and I am with the Flow Global Initiative, trying to spread the word about the flow state and also how to achieve the flow state, because we cracked the code, and this is the best news of the day, that we have the code how to crack, how to get into the state of flow, which is what I'm going to talk a little about today. And special attention of this webinar, as you all know, is what happens to our brains when we are in the state of flow. Now, I'm not a scientist in my background. I'm an engineer, but I did study this and train. So I will give you the explanation to the best of my understanding, but we have some cool material as well. So I'm gonna share the screen with you. Where is it? My PDF. Yep. I'm gonna share it now. And now just give me thumbs up if you can see it. Yep. Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So there is a lot of things going on in our mind and in our brain when, like, at all times in our waking and sleeping state. So what we want to discover today is what happens to our brain when we are going towards and when we are already in the state of flow, just so that we understand better. And so the webinar overview is, at first I'm going to just talk a little bit about the flow state and introduce it, because maybe just so to see that we are on the same page. And then we're going to go a little bit into the neuroscience behind flow. Then I'm going to mention transient hyperfrontality. Don't get scared about the big words. I'm going to explain everything so that it's understandable. And it's pretty simple, actually. And then we are going to try some things in the practical part, so that you don't listen to me for an hour and get, bored. But I have some nice breathing exercises prepared for you. And then I'm going to present a little bit our biohack portal, and then also a quick course overview for those who may be interested in getting the course done to become a flow coach, because that's also an option. Okay, let's get into it. So what is the flow state? I'm sure everybody heard about it or knows about it, but maybe they just didn't use this word, right? So the flow state is when sometimes we use the being in the zone term, and it's very commonly connected with high performers or professional athletes, but it's just a natural state, human state, where we feel good, and it's achievable for each one of us. It's just that it's much more common for those professions where somebody is coming, for those who need to have the peak performance at all times. It's just more it happens more often because they are working on it. So it's basically the most desirable state that you want to be in. And what is the flow code is what I call the map how to get into the flow state. So there are scientific communities which have been working on researching what happens and how does it happen, and how, if we can actually follow certain steps to actually get into the flow intentionally. And they discovered that, yes, there are certain things that needs to be in place, that needs to exist, that we can get into the flow state, but it's absolutely doable. And this is what flow code is. So basically, flow coaches like me, we are working with these flow code tools that I will present a little bit later on in the webinar, and teach people how they can intentionally get into the state of flow. So it has scientific foundation. how to decode, and then give you step-by-step approach, or a map how to enter the state of flow, and then of course maintain it on the long term. Yeah, so if we go in and focus on our brain, I mentioned that we are going to talk about the what happens in our brains when we are entering the state of flow, but maybe just to give you some kind of feeling, overall feeling, what is our mental bandwidth. So mental bandwidth is what is our perception, what we can perceive when we are conscious. And overall capacity, it's like an internal computer, right? So overall capacity that we can process is 120 bits per second. So this is the amount of information that we can actually perceive. And as I will mention later, it's absolutely essential for you to enter the state of flow that you are focused and that you are not multitasking. Because just to give you an idea, you listening to me and processing my language already takes 60 bits of information per second. So that's half of your capacity that you can process per second just by listening to me. So imagine that you are multitasking, how inefficient that is. And what happens in the state of flow is you enter in this state where you are hyper focused. And this is where how we should actually function at all times, you know. A lot of times you heard about mindfulness. So it's saying the same thing. Focus on task at hand. So what you are doing right now. So if you join this webinar, forget about other notifications, tabs that you have open. I don't know, your cat or dog running around the place. You be present, and this is how you have more chances to enter the state of flow. And the transient hypofrontality is actually one of the things that needs to happen if we want to enter the state of flow. There's no debate whether it can happen or not, but it has to happen. It's like a prerequisite for us to enter the state of flow. And what does it mean? Transient, it's just temporary, and hypofrontality, it's talking about this prefrontal cortex, which is the frontal part of our brains where cognitive activity happens, and this is where you process your analytical thinking, where you are solving problems, where you're doing your I don't know, work, when you are studying. It always happens here. Just give me a second to check if I muted everyone. Okay, so so yeah, transit hypofrontality is something that we need to do. And how we do it is basically we need to bring the cognitive activity down. So we are constantly thinking. Thoughts are just coming into our brain constantly. And when the cognitive activity in our frontal part of the brain is very high, it's very unlikely for us that we will be able to go into the state of flow. So just by understanding this, you can then work on that. If you decide, okay, I really want to become a flow personality, so now I understand that what I need to do is when, for example, in a clearly practical example, when you are working on a new project, either it's your personal project or at work, you you first gain knowledge. You are studying, you are solving problems and challenges, and then at one point you need to calm down. You need to internalize everything that you gathered. And this is where transient hypofrontality needs to happen, meaning that you actually need to let go and just say like, okay, the part of my conscious and analytical processing is over. Now I need to let it go and just my subconscious take over. So this is where your subconscious part of the brain takes over and starts processing and do the things it does, right? So that's what we call transient hypofrontality, decreasing the activity of your analytical brain. And transient hypofrontality was actually discovered across different activities and most commonly in the heightened states of consciousness. So with people who are meditating, with Tibetan monks, and yeah, people who are actually um, practicing this on a regular level, it was evident that in all those types of activities, you come across the transient hypofrontality. Okay. So going into the flow, it doesn't happen from now you are not in the flow and then the next second you're in the flow. We recognize 4 phases of the flow wave, we call it. So I'm going to go into this flow wave dynamics so that you understand better what is happening in each phase, and hopefully at the end it will make sense how everything is happening. As you know, everything in nature happens in cycles, and it's the same with our minds, with our brains. So we are always alternating our emotional states, our cognitive states. So when we are entering in this flow wave, first there's this build-up phase, and in the build-up phase, you are using your prefrontal cortex. You are learning new stuff. You are training. If you're a professional athlete, if you're in business, you are creating your projects, acquiring new knowledge, and this is where you are doing your processing. And naturally, our bodies in this phase produce certain chemicals, and we will go into that, what kind of chemicals we produce a little bit later. But your senses are heightened, and you are also under a certain amount of stress. Of course, it depends on a person, how prone we are to stress and anxiety and stuff. But being too long in this phase, it brings you actually on the negative side. It doesn't lead you to the flow. It's necessary to be in this phase and build it, but you need to know that the next phase should also come afterwards, because otherwise you will just enter in your chronic state, chronic stress, or experience anxiety. And this is actually where our society, in my opinion, is failing, because we are not aware, because we always feel this pressure, produce, and high performance and all this, but nobody's telling you you need to also take 5 and you need to calm down. So then we enter the second phase, which is the gain phase, and this is where you actually then enter in transient hypofrontality. You know that you acquired enough knowledge or enough skills that gives you the base for entering the state of flow. If we take, let's say, a professional athlete, they train every day, their bodies, their minds, their mindsets are done or set for the success, but then they need to enter into this gain phase. And this is where you calm down, you try to internalize stuff, and your subconscious takes over. And then we enter into the peak phase, which is then, again, in each phase, your body is producing certain types of chemicals. And in this peak phase is where we are, high, literally high, because our body naturally produces drugs. So this is then the peak phase and the high performance. So let's say when I don't know, if we have a professional musician, they are in a concert, they perform, it's amazing, they give everything into the performance, and they just blend with the music. This is the peak phase. And then, of course, as everything in nature is in cycles, then the transition phase comes. And sometimes it also comes with this afterglow effect, we say. It depends how often we enter in the flow state and how intentional we are about it. The longer we we can keep this transition phase. But then at one point, we will go out of the flow state, just because we live in a dual world. Everything is, there's no light without darkness. So you are happy and you are sad, and it's always changing. So with the flow wave is the same. It's a wave, and then you go down, and then you can come up and down and up and down. It's the circle of life. um, and we have brain waves. I think, I assume we all know that when our brains are processing things, this kind of demonstrates in brain waves. And what brain waves are actually some kind of electrical pulses between neurons inside our brains that are communicating. And the brain wave, actually, the higher the frequency, the more activity there is. And we recognize five different brain waves, and I'm gonna go into the details of each phase has different waves happening in our brain. And this is where the difference comes. So in build-up phase, we are working on beta waves, and this is between 12 and 40 hertz. And what happens in the beta is it's like when we are in our state of consciousness, it's normal waking consciousness, and it's where we have our logical and critical reasoning. So it's where we process stuff, and we are focusing on a task, either schoolwork or if we are training sports. And too much of it is not good, but also too little. Everything needs to be balanced, as everything in life. So we need to, that's why I mentioned before, after this gain phase, after the beta waves are functioning in our brain, then we need to go into the transient hypofrontality, and then we enter in different state of consciousness, which then brings us into the alpha waves. And this is where we are in the gain phase. And alpha waves are what we call the subconscious. So it's very low, so between 8 and 12 hertz. And it's when we are quiet and slowing down, and in this deep relaxation or even light meditation state. um, and this is what it means when I mention transient hypofrontality. So it's kind of between our conscious thinking and our subconscious mind. um, Again, if there is too much of, if we are too long in this kind of state, we can't focus, so we are more like daydreaming and we are too relaxed. But if there is too little, then of course we get stressed, we get anxious, maybe even insomniac. So this is the second phase. And then the third phase, so the peak phase of the state of flow, we are actually entering in this alternating state, which is alternating between alpha and theta. And it's very low, so we are very relaxed. We are not anxious or stressed or anything. But then also when we enter the high brain activity, it's what we call the superconscious. And this is the gamma. Yeah. So it's the fastest brain waves, like with the high frequency. And it's kind of yeah, as I said, alternating between very relaxed state where you believe and you know that you have everything already inside you, but then also that you can perform at your peak, at your best possibility. So yeah, it's kind of higher processing tasks. Yeah, so this is how the brain waves are alternating between the different states of flow wave. And then if we go one level forward, is what happens on the neurochemical level. So as I mentioned before, our body naturally produces chemicals which either makes us feel good or makes us feel bad. Well, in flow state, of course, we feel good. So what happens in the build-up phase, our body naturally releases norepinephrine and dopamine. So this is like our reward center. Whenever you complete a task, you feel good because your body rewards you with dopamine. And this is like also kind of a motivation for you to continue with the activity that you are doing. Like our bodies are super smart and nature did that. So like it's amazing how we work and how we function, and we are not even aware of it. um, so yeah, and then we enter the gain phase. Our body starts releasing endorphins. We have this kind of um, we start having the sense of time distortion because you're like very focused on this task, but also it's just effortless. You know, you're not super in control. I mean, you are, but it doesn't feel like hard work. It's very effortless. And you have this creative mind opening. It's like you would be connecting with your higher self, if you will. So you have this ability to link different ideas from different parts of your brains. And yeah, it's just like it's an amazing feeling. And then we enter the peak state, where scientists discovered that our body rewards us with or starts releasing this this chemical that's called anandamide. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrect. Anandamide. Yeah. And they kind of also started calling it with this special cute name, like bliss molecule, because it's actually making sure that we are happy and that we are balanced in our mental state. And it has very similar um, components as the cannabis. So some people are smoking cannabis or taking CBD oil, but maybe they don't know that our body naturally produces. And that's what happens when you are in this peak state. When you enter the state of flow, this is exactly what your body is giving you. So you literally are high on this neurochemical, and you just have this feeling of, bliss. And there's no like stress or pain. You can do everything so effortlessly, and you just really solve your problem or any kind of problem that presents, really easy and effortlessly. And then in the transition phase, in the fourth phase, when you are going down from the peak, your body starts producing oxytocin and serotonin, which are happy chemicals, right? So you have this feeling of trust and peace and, connection with everything and everyone. And then it can happen that there's this afterglow effect, which is not the nicest feeling, but just knowing that, yeah, this will happen because we cannot always be in the flow. Prepare ourselves for that. But the more you practice getting into the flow, the the milder this afterglow effect will be, and the longer you can keep this feeling, because you also remember, you can, with all the triggers that I'm going to go in the future slides, is we have certain triggers how to remember how it feels to be in the flow, so that also again brings you back. Cool. So slowly we are going to go into the practical part. So this is just the last slide. I'm going to be going into a lot of theory. But I hope it's interesting because this is essential understanding behind, so that we see that everything makes sense also on the science level, that it's not just, some kind of woo-woo. So what we recognize in the flow code is that there are different trigger channels. So trigger channels, you're going to understand a little bit better when I'm going to actually show you the practical part with the tools. But as we are all different people, some people are more kinesthetic, so touchy-feely. Some people like to, they are more audio or visual, how we perceive the world, right? So there are different channels what could potentially then trigger you going into the state of flow. And we recognize four different channels. So sensory flow alignment is the influence through perception and senses. um, by influence we mean how to influence ourselves to go to send us into the state of flow, if you will. And then the second one is cognitive flow alignment, so influence through your internal cognitive activity. In simpler words this is like um, affirmations or visualizations, so the things that, or yeah, affirmations, basically when you are talking to yourself, and repeating the same things again, and then triggering certain states of emotional states. And then we have the social flow alignment, which is influenced through the social or group context. So automatically, when you're going to be surrounded with a group of people that is going to be on the same level as you, or interested, or having like this growth mindset, you're gonna automatically get into the flow easier than with a group of people who is going to be complaining all the time and being, I don't know, grumpy, or just searching for problems. So it does influence your ability to get into the state of flow. Or when you are with your friends, sometimes you just, I'm sure everybody already experienced this. When you are with your friends, there are these tiny moments when you are just like, oh my god, I feel so good, I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful, I'm surrounded with my friends. And this is also kind of the state of flow, if you will. And then we have the environmental flow alignment, which is influenced through the nature or even the enclosing environment, meaning like, of course, going to the nature or being close to the water automatically puts us in a better state, right? I don't remember hearing from anybody that would ever say, yeah, I went for a walk to the forest and now I feel worse, right? So usually when you go for a walk, especially now in pandemics, we saw how important it is, and how many people started seeking this connection with nature, because it just automatically vibrates on the same level as our natural feel good state, right? So these flow trigger channels are all kind of pathways or interventions, how you can trigger yourself to come into the state of flow. And I will go into the concrete tools. So Flow Hub 7 is this concrete tool. It's a biohack portal. It's where we have different tools, triggers, rituals, meditation, breath work, more than 700 of different things that can trigger you and help you establish a habit, and then enter the state of flow. So what we are going to do now is we are going to learn how to breathe right, because a lot of times we have trouble changing our emotional state just because we are maybe not breathing right, or our posture is wrong. And we are not aware that just by changing our physiology, we are actually able to change our emotional state. So what I would like to do now is invite everybody, if you will, to correct your posture. I don't see everybody, so I don't know how you are sitting or lying down, but in case you are sitting, just try to strengthen your back and put your shoulders a little bit backwards so that you open your chest area, because it's important that you give the space for the air to actually flow through your body. And when we are going to breathe, is how we are going to do it is inhale through the nose and then exhale through your mouth, and focus on breathing with your diaphragm. A lot of times when we are breathing shallow, it automatically induces a feeling of anxiety or stress, or vice versa. When we are in stress situation, we started breathing like this. and how you can actually change your emotional state if you are stressed or anxious is just by focus on your breathing and breathe from your diaphragm. So let's just try once to breathe through the nose, inhale through the nose, and then exhale through your mouth, and try to focus on breathing into your belly. Yeah. So let's inhale and exhale through your mouth. Okay. So this is how we are going to do it. And this is the technique that we are called pursed lip breathing, simply because when we are exhaling, we have our lips pursed. Yeah. It's not complicated, but just be mindful that you breathe. And also during the breathing exercise, I would invite you to really keep the posture and just follow this breathing pattern to see how it feels. Yeah. And you will see in the video that I'm gonna play, you will see basically inhale and exhale. There's gonna be some sound cues. Okay. Now I'm gonna share another screen where I have so it's gonna be 3 minutes of breathing. I believe you can all do it. Computer sound. Yes, yes. Flow slow breaths. Yeah, it's this one. All right. Are we in the flow yet? So this exercise, I got feedback in the past that for some people it can be very fast and they get lightheaded. For some people, it can be just the right. And we have within the biohacking portal different levels. Yeah. I know, Anchi, I was referring to you. So because we all breathe differently, and also we have different, pressure. So for some people, they are not, yeah, too fast. Yeah. There are the same breathing techniques, but they have different ratios. I don't know if you noticed, probably not, but in the video, this was like four counts inhale and four counts exhale, which means that the ratio was 4-4. But the more advanced, so it was like a beginner level, and then you have advanced level and master level, and these ratios get different. So 4 counts and then 8 counts, or 4 counts inhale and 12 counts exhale. And this then gets more challenging, but also you become more, proficient in this, and you start understanding how actually your breathing really influences your mental state or emotional state. So yeah, it's really interesting to see this and experience it. That's why I wanted to share the exercise with you. Um, Great. So what I also want to show is that in the flow code, we recognize 7 different mindsets. Um, Most of the time you would hear in the like talking among each other about the growth mindset, right? I'm sure everybody heard it here or there, and we kind of know what that means. But then we recognize also gratitude mindset and awe mindset, meaning that you are in awe about the world that exists around you, or that anything that basically exists, how nature is amazing in what she creates. Or then we have the playful mindset, meaning that we don't take everything so seriously, and we approach situations and events or people in relationships with a more playful manner. Because a lot of times, and this is, I'm talking from personal experience, being more playful is super important. Because if we take everything very seriously, then it can stress us out. We stress ourselves out because everything is just like, oh, I need to do this and this and that, and if this doesn't happen, then we just put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So we need to play more. And this ritual that we are going to practice now, it's also from the biohack portal, and it's going to present all the different mindset that we have. And again, it's connected to the breathing, and then you're going to hear some affirmations. You can also read it in the video, and it's also a little bit longer than 3 minutes. But yeah, now you already know how to breathe. So just relax, follow the sound cues, and just listen. You don't, if you want, you can actually stand up and do the exercise, because there's some body movement, but most of us are sitting, so that's also fine to follow it just like that. Sometimes I just do it in my bed, and it's equally effective, if you will. Okay, let me just share the video.
Breathe slow and breathe deep. Always flowing. Just observing. We flow together. I am grateful for every breath. I expand my reality. I am alive and breathing. What I imagine, I create. Let's play. I feel unity. Always flowing. Just observing. We flow together. I am grateful for every breath. I expand my reality. I am alive and breathing. What I imagine, I create. Let's play. I feel unity.
So this was more advanced level. How did that feel for you? Too fast still? Little better, no? And also in some exercises, we also have this hold of the breath. There is another breathing exercise which we call dolphin breaths, and it's more holding the breath than breathing in and out. So um, everybody can find, you know, options for themselves within the Flow Hub. And just now, as the last tool or the exercise I would like to share is where do I have flying hero? So I don't know if all of you have heard about the deep embodiment. So how we perceive the world and interact with the world is through our bodies, right? So there has been a lot of movements and more movements that I noticed that understand this connection. So as I mentioned before, you can change your emotional state by changing your physiology. So by moving your body, sometimes, I don't know if you notice, but when you're stuck, just going out for a walk starts, your brain starts seeing different connections and getting new ideas, as if you would be just lying in your bed and being depressed or anxious, or just like overthinking over and over again the same thoughts. So moving really influences our mindset or like our emotional state. And this is one of the things that we also have and understand and have in the Flow Hub, that you connect the movement with the breathing. I'm just gonna show a couple of seconds of this exercise because I want to be respectful of your time. So yeah, let me just show you.
Flying hero.
This would be an example of physical exercise, and I'm sure that at least Dea knows what I'm talking about, that through doing physical exercise like martial arts, for example, because this is our where we met, is where we can actually feel and get into the state of flow. And this is actually the most intense memory that I have of the state of flow when I was doing capoeira, which is a martial art, and it requires such sharp focus, but it's also fluid. And then if you when you stop thinking about your next move and just go in the flow, you just flow. I don't know how to explain it differently, but it's just you enter into different realm of consciousness, and it's amazing. So through moving in a different way or even breathing, you can achieve the state of flow. That's why um, it's so useful, and you need to understand how your body or how your mind perceives the world, so that you can assist yourself the best in the best possible manner, through which triggers it's gonna bring you to the flow. And this is what the flow hub enables you. um, so as we are approaching the end of our webinar, I just want, yes, Tai Chi, yoga, exactly. All these kind of activities, they basically all do the same. I mean, help you the same. Um, I would like you to, I would like to give you, ah, sorry, a token of appreciation for spending your time with me. So as I mentioned, this Flow Hub is a biohack portal, and you have the possibility, because usually it's on a monthly subscription basis, but you have a possibility to get a 7-day free trial to check it out if you would like to use it. And then if you decide that you will subscribe, you can also get 10% discount if you enter my name. I'm gonna send all of you a follow-up email with all these information, so you don't have to remember anything now, just so that you know you have this possibility of trying out Flow Hub and see what works for you. Just browse around, and maybe you find something that you will find useful and implement it in your life. And this is something, these kind of tools I also use within my coaching practice. Um, if I go, yeah, so you have the mobile version and the desktop version, and it's really convenient. When you have it on your mobile, you can simply access it. Like, for example, in the morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is open the app and put on the morning meditation for myself. And or if you are going on a meeting and you know it's going to be maybe stressful, you just put 3 minute or even 7 breaths breathing before the meeting, just to enter into this transient hypofrontality that I mentioned before. So it's really user friendly and useful. um, and yeah, we were not able to go through all of the possibilities that you have there, but you also have sleeping programs, and then some tips and tricks in different areas, and helping you to learn how to meditate, to make it a habit, or to boost your performance if that's what you want for yourself. So there's a lot of options for everybody, no matter what your background or what your goal is in this. And in case somebody is interested, we also, just like I am a flow coach, you can also become one. So whoever is interested, either a standalone coaching practice or an additional thing, like in my coaching practice, I base it on neurolinguistics, but I also add the elements of flow code, and it really goes well together. So it's a really nice opportunity for anybody who is interested. It's all online. You have support from the headquarters. They're super nice people. And yeah, maybe, you know, you got hit by pandemic really hard and you are looking for something new in your life. So this can be one option, and you get trained online and you get a certificate, and then you have a lot of support from the team from the headquarters. All the package or the marketing is done for you. You have everything that you need, and they are really supportive. So yes, 7 minutes until the end. I will send you a follow-up email with all the infos, links that you might be interested in. But I would really, really like to thank everybody for being here, and I hope I fulfilled your expectations and you learned something new and something interesting. And yeah, if you are interested in more, there will be other webinars coming up. So yeah, I will let you know, and you're welcome to join them as well. So with this, I think if anybody has some questions, you are still welcome to you can unmute yourself. I think you have this possibility, so you can ask me anything. Otherwise, thank you for coming, and I wish everybody a nice weekend. Ciao.